Hello everybody, my name is Richard Tejeda with the Monterey-based Salmon and Trout Project. We manage a fish hatchery over in Davenport, and we also do education in classrooms. Today we're at Boulder Creek, California, along Boulder Creek, and this is session 2, small fry. We're going to be learning all about fry, but before we get started, I just want to throw a shout out to Noah and for providing us with the BWENT grant for making all of these virtual field trips possible. During these virtual field trips, I'll be taking you on a journey, starting in the upper watershed and working our way down to the Pacific Ocean. We'll be visiting 2 watersheds, the San Lorenzo watershed here in Santa Cruz County, and also the Carmel River watershed in Monterey County. So the last time we left off, we were talking about elevin and eggs hatching. But before we move on, I'd like to orient you and let you know where we're at. And so let's go ahead and pull up photo 1. And so photo 1 shows that we're here on the San Lorenzo River where Boulder Creek meets the San Lorenzo River, which is a tributary, okay? So again, last time we left off, we were talking about eggs and elevin, and now we're going to be talking all about fry. So let's go ahead and pull up a picture of an elevin. And so at this point, they're too weak to swim and have not developed fins yet. So if they can't catch food in the fast current, what do they eat? So this is a question to the viewers. What do the elevin eat at this point? They're too small to catch any insects. And so here are the elevin right here. And so what do you think they eat? We'll take a second. Go ahead and raise your hand. Let the moderator know. Put it in the chat. Right, so yeah, so this yolk sac is their nutrients for the next 30 to 45 days. They're too small to eat any macroinvertebrates at this point, so they're gonna hide in the gravel. Okay. All right, and so after this stage, they're going to be known as what's called a fry. So let's go ahead and pull up a fry photo so that you can get a better view of what the fry looks like. So once the elevin absorbs its yolk sac, it's now going to enter the water column as a fry and begin to feed on macroinvertebrates. Okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to walk on over here and learn about what fry eat. So follow me over this way. All right, so such a beautiful place. And so we're going to be talking about benthic macroinvertebrates. Benthic meaning that they're found at the bottom of a river, creek, or stream. Macro meaning that you can see them with your naked eye, and invertebrate meaning that they have no spine. Okay, so some of them you may be familiar with, like dragonflies or damselflies, and some you may not be so familiar with, like stoneflies and mayflies and water pennies and things like that. And so when we talk about these macroinvertebrates, they do have 3 main body parts, and one being the abdomen. And so this area right here is the abdomen. The next area being the head. And the area in between be called the thorax. So when we look at today's specimens later on in this session, I want you to see if you can find those 3. There's also different adaptations that all of these macroinvertebrates have that allow them to be successful in living in different areas of the stream, creek, or river. This is an umbo. When we talk about segmented, we talk about the different segmented parts of something such as a caddisfly. We see that some of them have an adaptation to have jointed appendages, which allows them to cling on to rocks and live in different areas. We see that they breathe through gills, and that some of these areas here have what's kind of called as hairs that help filter out pollutants. Some are elongated, like this dragonfly nymph, and some have appendages, and some have abdominal hooks, which can help them hold on to different things in the stream. And so we see that they have different adaptations in different body parts. And so today we'll be looking at some of those specimens. All right, so we're down at the creek, and we're going to be looking for Macklin vertebrates. Okay, so it's a big word for like macro, something that you can see with your naked eye. So you don't need a microscope. So macro, you can see with your eye. Benthic means that it's living at the bottom, and invertebrate means that it doesn't have a spine. Okay, so macro invertebrate. So we're going to be looking for some of these creatures, and while we're looking for them, Meg is here actually. So we have this table here, and we have Meg, and Meg's going to be working with us today. And what Meg is going to be doing is, while we're looking for creatures, she's going to be sorting those creatures out, and has a data sheet that we're not going to be using, but she's going to be using, and that's going to tell us at the end of the program how well or how clean this water is. Okay, so the macroinvertebrates we're looking for today, the aquatic insects, can determine how clean, or we can use them as an indicator to tell us if the water is polluted, somewhat polluted, or if it's clean. Okay, now we're going to look for macroinvertebrates, right? Those little things that we can see with our eye. They live here in the creek, and there's like multiple ways you can find them. You know, you can put a net in the water and hope that one falls into your net. You can use a D-net, which I'll show you in a bit, or you can use something less invasive like a smaller aquarium net. And today I'm probably just going to be using simple water and rocks and just simply moving them off. I'm using the turkey basis. I like the turkey basis because it has a wide hole, not like a normal little type of, can't think of the name right now, but the smaller ones, they can hurt them because while you're sucking them up. So this doesn't hurt them, allows us to suck it up. Then we're going to put them in our tray, and then Meg's going to take them over and determine which one we found or tally it, and then we're going to go over and put the microscope on it. But let's find what we can see today with just our hands, right? And so first thing I want to do, and I want to mention parent teachers, you can do this at any creek, any waterway near your home. Doesn't have to be the Santa Cruz Mountains. It could be anywhere. Guadalupe Watershed, Monterey, wherever you want to be. Just visit a creek and start to pick up rocks. So the first thing I'm going to do is put some water in my tray. So if I find any creatures, they're going to be in here. And then I'm going to start to pick up rocks. It's a very simple process where you pick up the rock and you flip it over, and here we have a mayfly. Okay, so you can pitch the zoom to bring that in. All I'm going to do is turn my rock over, and I'm going to shake my rock into the water, and there's our mayfly. Right? We have a mayfly. You can do whatever you need to do. I'm going to fill my other tray. It's good to have a clean tray and a dirty tray. The first specimens go in the dirty tray, and then you suck them out, put them in a clean tray. So the first thing I'm going to grab this this mayfly here, and now we have a mayfly that's inside of this tube. Okay, I'm going to put that in my clean tray, And there we have a mayfly, okay? The mayfly is perfect. There's nothing wrong with the mayfly. It's swimming around. We did not injure that mayfly, okay? We come to another rock, and we pick up another rock, and we look on both sides, and that one, we didn't get anything. We struck out on that one, and we just keep going and going. And so we're just going to keep looking here, determine what we find. Here we have a caddisfly house, okay? We're looking at a caddisfly. But we see that there are some caddisfly larvae that are inside of this rock here, okay? Caddisfly larvae inside, and the caddisfly uses the rocks and either uses a net or its own like type of spit, and then engineers these homes and goes inside, okay? And so we're gonna leave that alone. We're gonna leave that alone, but if we put it in the sun, and if you look real close, some of them have pyrite gold in them, and if there was gold available, they would use gold. And some people, they'll make jewelry out of them, like earrings and things, okay? So there's some larvae living in there. We're going to talk about the life cycle in a bit, but just wanted to show you that, look at what I found, right? There was another specimen, actually, that I had hid under this rock on the other day when I was here. During the dry run, and I'm trying to see if I can find it, but if not, it's fine. There's plenty to find here. We're in this little small vicinity, and I can stay here and look for creatures. And so let me keep looking. Let's see what I can find. I want to find like a stonefly, like a big stonefly. If you want to shut some of these up, so let me just show them really quick. Are we in the camera frame? Yeah. You in the frame? Yeah. So we have some mayflies, and we have like a stonefly. And so I'm going to give these to Meg. She's going to go put them, separate them, and then I'll go over with the microscope. But I want to find a big, juicy stonefly, like a big ribday, and I want to find a big, juicy caddisfly. And it's a scavenger hunt. It's fun, you know? We're looking for stuff. You never know what you're going to find. You can find a big, fat macroinvertebrate. You know, it all depends on where you're at. Can you see the pyrite's gold on it? It's all over it.
Oh, okay, that'll do.
So it looks like pyrite's gold all over it. Pretty interesting. And then right here is a huge mayfly or stonefly that I've been looking for. It's right there. Look at that. See, you never know what you're going to find. So watch this. And look at the size of that one.
Wow.
Well,
See that specimen? And there's a water penny in there too. So we're going to look at stoneflies, mayflies, water penny. I want to get a caddisfly real quick, and then we'll go to the microscope. It was a big specimen, but we found it not alive. Stonefly, big stonefly. And then there's one just hanging onto this limb here.
And you found one water penny?
One water penny. So let's start with the water penny on the microscope. So let's bring these trays over. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to be removing the phone and putting on this special lens. And then I'm going to use a pipette or the turkey baster to stuff the specimen up and put the specimen right on this tray, which will then allow for us to see its anatomy kind of translucent, which is really amazing. And then, yeah. And so a mayfly has 3 tails. Here we see that it has a head, which is, I'll put it in the frame in a second. There's the head, right? We see its little appendages. We see its thorax, which is below the head. And then we do see its abdomen, which is right below the thorax. So it goes head, thorax, and abdomen. Okay, so this is a mayfly species moving around. And then if we look at its tail, which is over this way, we can see how many it has. So kids, count how many tails that has. Does it have 1, 2, or 3 tails? Okay, and so that's one of the characteristics of a mayfly is the number of tails that it has, but not always. Okay.
How do they breathe?
So they have these little kind of furry gill structures on the side, and the fur, or the hairs, if you will, which some people, kind of like to think of like as underarm pit hairs because sometimes they're there, are actually filters to filter out pollutants from any river or creek. And so that also is one of the reasons why they make such good indicator species. And so they do have arms and they do have appendages. And so I do have some other photos. I'm having fun with this right here. But I do have some other photos that explain, what the parts are. But I think it's just fun to look at the creatures and their structure. And then we're going to put on the next one. It's going to be totally different. You see this water penny structure is just amazing. I don't even know how to really explain this structure of this water penny, but let me put it right in the center here. And oh gosh, we see that they have like little arms. I didn't know they had little arms. What are those things moving, right? So we look and we see that there's like some kind of like little feet or something that are moving there. Let me move some of this debris out of the way so you get an even better look. But
I'm trying to put some of these in cleaner water.
I'm gonna move this and just leave it here for a second. Look for movement.
Makes me think of a trilobite.
Yeah, exactly. So this thing can be like, the structure of it can be millions of years old or something, who knows?
I can see it now. He's signing.
But it's like moving on its own, so.
Richard, he's signing. He says, "Let me go."
Let's let this one go. I got this stonefly doing some weird stuff. Let's see. Let's grab.
There's mayflies in there, and
Grab this stonefly right here and see if we can.
So is that water penny
Oh, it's a
an
mayfly.
adult or is it also a larva?
So these right here are larvae. Actually, let's see. What, stonefly? Nymphs. So stoneflies, so these are the nymphs. So these have an incomplete metamorphism where they go from egg to nymph to adult.
Oh, wow.
There you got it. There you go.
That's beautiful.
So we see
Do
the
you
three.
have a picture that John can show about the 5 stages that they go through?
Yeah, so John, if you want to pull it up right now is a good time. It's the incomplete and complete metamorphism. There's a color version, and then there's a black and white version. I recommend pulling up the color version, and then we can look at an incomplete and a complete metamorphism. And one's going to be the complete of a caddisfly, and I believe the other one's like a mayfly. But it's some really good photos, I believe, from Don Chersek, and
There
they're
you
really
go.
good.
There you go.
So here we have an egg mass of a caddisfly all the way to the left. There's the eggs. And so it goes from an egg to a larva, and that's the house that we've seen. And the house, so larva turns into a pupa, and then that pupa turns into, in a terrestrial creature. And that's complete because there's a pupa involved. But the incomplete is below, where it's an egg, a nymph, and an adult, where there's no pupa involved. It gets pretty confusing. But if you were to think of like a monarch butterfly has a complete, and a dragonfly actually has an incomplete. Even though the dragonfly changes into something completely different and flies away, there's no no pupa stage, only nymph, okay? So this guy's really active. We see some very good characteristics of its appendages, which allows it to hold on to rocks. And then we see the characteristic 3 tails below, which I learned is maybe a mayfly, but learned from Don that that is not always the case, okay? This one's very different, has lots of different color spots. So far, there seems to be many different types of creatures in here. And so we'll pull up the next one. So we see this one as well, has a head and a thorax and an abdomen as well. Something just swam by in the camera in there with it. So there could be a water boatman or something in there swimming around. It's so tiny. I mean, that must be so tiny, whatever that is. We have a large specimen here that I want to put on because this is pretty large.
This caddisfly
Oh, you got a
walking.
caddisfly walking?
Yeah.
Oh, never mind, guys. We got this cool thing. Hold on. We got this cool thing going on. We got a caddisfly hanging out of his house. So now you're gonna get to see the caddisfly hanging out of his house, and they'll walk. I'm using this forceps for this specimen, and now we see the house, and it probably got spooked, so it's inside of the house, but that's the opening. And so if I maybe hang out here for a second, it's gonna come back out. But let me show you the house. It's made of rock, and inside of there is a caddisfly, and the caddisfly is backed in, and it has 2 anchors, and it hooks into this structure. So that's the opening. As you can see, they're very good engineers. There's a specimen in there. What was that specimen? There's specimens all over. I don't know if you guys are seeing this in the camera.
Yeah, there's something else that swam by at the bottom of the screen.
It's moving. Did you just see it move?
Yep.
So the caddisfly house moved, and it doesn't just move on its own. The legs must have came out. There's the legs. Let's see, where is it at? I can see some of the net, which is interesting. That may be some of the netting that is used to attach those rocks together. It could be. So that's the caddisfly house using little tiny rocks. There's a specimen inside, but it doesn't want to really come out. Wonder if,
So wait, you say do you use a net to hold the little grains of sand together?
well, you know, there's net spinning and rock spinning, and so I don't know. I'm seeing. Oh, now it's moving. There it came out. It came out. Hold on, give me a second. Hold on. There it is. There it is. Hold on. It's like a hermit, you know? It's like a hermit. So there it is. There it is. You see that?
Yeah.
Look at it.
We got 10 minutes left.
Doesn't like being squeezed.
Oh, I'm using these forceps, and it's on rocks. So there's the bottom. It's inside. And so I'm thinking that net, you might even see some hanging from it. So that same netting doctors are using, instead of putting in metal pins into your leg, they're going to use this same netting because it's flexible. Those rocks can open and close, and so you're going to use that same netting to next time heal your bone together and mend it together, because unlike pins, it's flexible, and eventually it'll like, you know, break down or something. But a lot of these creatures are using scientific ways. Okay, we see this adaptation of using rocks, and that is pretty cool. And it's in there. This whole body's in there. All right, so let's let this.
Look at a stonefly.
Let's look at a stonefly. Okay, here it is. So here we have the abdomen, and there's those gill type things. You know, I guess I'm a little rusty. There's the gill type structures. Those gills actually will flutter and move.
Legs.
And then we see the legs, the appendages of them being able to flex. Not all of them can do that. So they can, just like your elbow is flexible, they can do the same thing. We see the gills. See the gills flapping?
Yeah.
Gills with the hair. And so we have the gills flapping.
So are the gills on the abdomen? Or
Gills are on the
legs?
You know, I think they could be both. I think some have them in what they call underarmpit hair. You know, might be more like stonefly.
The mayfly has their gills attached to the abdomen.
Nice.
When those segments are showing up on their long body.
Look at that. Look at that go.
If it's
That's
hairy
cool.
on those segments, those are gills.
So they're taking in the dissolved oxygen. Those filters, the hairs are filtering out any pollutants.
And then stoneflies.
Let's move it to the, I just like watching that actually.
It's
That's
pretty
really
cool.
Stoneflies have their gills on the legs and thorax.
There's the, oh, your mama could love that face. Look at that. Look at that, man. Looks like
Oh my god.
looks like a gremlin from Gremlins. That is
so
cool.
Is that a mayfly or a stonefly?
Let's look. So let's look at the tails. Let's see how many we have here. I'm always a little weary ever since watching Don's presentation. There's 3, so I'm gonna say it's a mayfly, but
Okay, I'll count it
you
as a
know,
mayfly.
count that as a mayfly.
So we have
Does that happen there?
7 mayflies so far.
7 mayflies. Okay.
And 15 caddisflies, 1 water penny, and how many stoneflies?
Well, good.
Stoneflies are the only ones we haven't counted.
Stoneflies, there's a bunch in here, probably about 10 at least. They're so tiny. Did we look at one yet? Let's look at a stonefly and then we'll start to... Okay, let's look at an exoskeleton of a stonefly. How about that? Exoskeleton, really quick. And what this is that the adult, the stonefly adult has left the building. So all that's left is this exoskeleton on what was inside. So it crawled out as a nymph, attached itself to a rock or a leaf or something, and then came out of that. And so what we're seeing left is just the exoskeleton. You might know a crayfish, right? What was the next thing?
What do these bugs eat?
So these bugs are going to eat kind of like little algae and stuff, right? So like if we look at algae and it's floating in the water, they can eat that stuff.
All of this stuff is decomposing?
Yeah, absolutely, because they're like shredders and things. There's different types. They have like 4 different types of jobs, Penny. And so this is all the things that we kind of found today. There's so much more to find here. There's the caddisfly house. Yeah.
We need to thank someone.
Yeah, who do we have to thank?
I want to thank Noah. We had 15 caddisflies, 7 mayflies, 1 water penny, and I didn't write it down, but I found 3 stoneflies. So I didn't find anything over in this column, which says somewhat pollution tolerant. And we found nothing in the far right column either, which is pollution tolerant. So if we saw polluted water, we would find these insects. If we had somewhat polluted water, we would have found these insects. We have clean water.
That's
Because
great.
look at what we found.
That's great news. See how that works? You can determine, because they're indicator species, just like salmon and trout. If they're not here, you know there's something wrong. Well, by the species you find here. So go out and, visit your local stream and creek close to home and go and find some creatures and fill out the Monterey Bay Salmon Trout Project, Biomonitor Benthic Macroinvertebrate sheet, and let people know all the good news about your waterways, all right?